What's going on, guys? All right, so you're probably noticing a little bit of a change of scenery. I am here at the Sorinex headquarters in Lexington, South Carolina. If you're unfamiliar with Sorinex, they are a major exercise equipment distributor. They outfit a lot of NFL and college weight rooms. I've got a good relationship with them. They were kind enough to let me utilize their podcast studio. I'm out here doing a little bit of a collaboration project with them, which you guys will be seeing more of that in the coming weeks, so stay tuned. But I'm going to be filming a podcast here, and then wanted to just get some YouTube content as well while I had the studio. So most of my videos you guys see from my home office. And although I am striving to continue to improve the production value, I'm not so concerned with right now with lighting and cameras and the set and all that stuff. My main goal is just to get out good quality, actionable information to you guys. And I'm always going to put out the substance of my information and what I'm preaching over the production value of the operation. But as we continue to grow and the channel gets bigger, all those good things, I'm sure the production value will increase. But whenever I have opportunities to travel and shoot on a set like this, I'll always take advantage. So anyway, guys, getting into today's video. So I wanted to cover some just general strategies for people getting started with nutrition. A lot of people, they've never been on a regimented diet plan, and they've never tracked food, and maybe they don't want to really get into macro tracking and calorie tracking and get super in depth, but you just want some good places to start and general strategies to get the ball rolling and to build a plan around. So that's what this video is about. Now, in recent weeks, you've seen me highlighting a lot of my strongman clients and my pro guys, my top athletes and all that. But I work with tons of just general population lifestyle clients with all sorts of goals. I work with all sorts of people, and I want to be a voice in the nutrition space and training space that's putting out information that's applicable to everyone. The human body is the human body. So if your goal is fat loss or muscle gain or performance or gut health or digestion, I want this information to be useful for everyone. So I'm going to be putting out more content that is relevant to intermediates and beginners with any goal in mind. But today, as I was gathering my thoughts, how do I want to approach this video? I started going down rabbit holes of, all right, for people with fat loss goals, we'll talk about this. For muscle gain goals, we'll talk about that. And performance goals, we'll talk about this. And then I realized, what, if I take that approach, we're going to be cramming, 10 videos worth into one. So rather than focusing on those specific categories, I'm just going to put out some general strategies that are applicable to anyone with any goal as you're getting started without having to worry about getting caught in the weeds with, macro tracking, calories and stuff like that, which we can get more in depth in. I've got resources available on that stuff. If you're interested in going more in depth, but you're not interested in one-on-one coaching, I encourage you to check out my ebook, which is now available on my website, hammerchiselperformance.com. But my ebook is titled Dialing in Your Nutrition, a comprehensive manual for setting up your own diet, which does go into specific, fat loss goals, muscle gain goals, gut health, meal timing, building the metabolism, performance, intra-workout, dialing in calories and macros, real world specific diet examples, things like that. So I encourage you to check that out if you want to get more into the specifics, or check out past videos I put out, or stay tuned for future videos. But for now, let's get into some just general strategies that are going to be applicable to anyone getting started. So my number one goal, it's an obvious one. It's going to be set a goal. Identify what is your goal, right? Is your goal fat loss? Is your goal muscle gain? And once you've established that initial goal, here's the kicker. I want you to set a goal for what comes next. Most people, they set this goal and they achieve that goal, but then they get there and they're standing around like, what the hell do I do next? Right? You set this fat loss goal, you lose a bunch of weight, you lose a bunch of body fat, and then you're standing there wondering, well, now what? And that's where people tend to go wrong. They have no direction once they've achieved the first goal. And I'm going to put out a video here in the near future going into specifics of how to handle a reverse diet. What do you do specifically to come out of that fat loss phase? But just generally speaking, set that initial goal, but then have some direction where you're going to go next. So for example, if your goal was fat loss, maybe your secondary goal is, okay, I lost a bunch of weight, now I want to maintain this new body composition. Or maybe your secondary goal is, I lost a bunch of fat, now I want to gain muscle. Well, now this provides some context and some direction that's going to shape our next move, and it's going to help provide context for how do we approach the end of the fat loss diet. When does the fat loss diet need to end? If your goal post diet is more maintenance, well, that probably means we shouldn't diet down as aggressively. We don't need to go as far with the diet. We want to kind of cut things off in a more sustainable place. Versus if your next step is muscle gain, well, now we know we can push the diet further and get leaner, and that's going to benefit the gain phase, which I put out that video a few weeks back talking about get lean before you get big. Right. So if we know what our next goal is, that's going to provide us context and direction. And then it's also just going to be a good mental boost. A lot of times you achieve that first goal, you don't have a second goal, and then you kind of just get this like lost feeling, right? Whereas if you already have that second goal built in, well, boom, now I've got a new goal to attack. I'm ready to roll here. So set a first goal and then have a secondary goal for what comes next. Now, here's another big one when it comes to goal setting. Don't set goals that are body weight specific or are attached to a specific timeline. Now, on one hand, I appreciate having objective and quantifiable goals in many aspects of life. I would encourage this, but not when it comes to fat loss or muscle gain. Why? Because we are not robots. We are not walking math equations. We are complex biological organisms. We cannot control the specific rate of fat loss that is going to occur. We cannot control the specific rate of muscle gain that is going to occur. Everyone is different. Everyone's metabolism is different. And if we get overly attached to a number, oftentimes that is going to sabotage the process. So for example, let's say you set this goal of, I want to lose 20 pounds in 8 weeks. Well, you might start dieting and things are going great. You're losing body fat, you're moving right along, but you're falling behind this arbitrary timeline. And now you start to panic. Now you start to reduce your calories or crank up your cardio when you didn't need to. You're already in a great spot, but you're chasing after this number. And now it's just thrown off the methodology. Now it's thrown off the process. And now the end result is going to be worse. Now we're not going to get to a place where we look the way we want to look. We're just chasing after an arbitrary number. And that's not the goal. Nobody cares what you weigh. Anyone who's chasing a fat loss goal, it's how you look and how you feel and how you perform, right? It's not about digits on a scale. So what I would encourage is set a more generalized goal. Like, you know what? Hey, I want to get to a point where I can see my abs. Or, you know what? I want to go through a sustainable and effective diet over the course of the summer. Let's see whatever body weight we get to, but let's stick to the diet for the entire summer. Set goals that are more process and method oriented. Set a goal of, hey, I'm going to work with a coach, or I'm going to set this diet plan in place and I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to train hard. I'm going to hit all my meals. I'm going to limit myself to one cheat meal a week. You follow that process, you focus on that process oriented goal, you are going to like the outcome versus if you set this number specific end result oriented goal. Now you're chasing after that, and inevitably it's going to sabotage the process. Like I'll work with nutrition clients often who they report back to me within their weekly check-in, and we look, the scale hasn't moved, but we look at their photos. They're looking visually tighter. Their clothes are fitting differently. They're starting to feel better. They're getting compliments from people. Hey, you look great. Imagine with an individual like that, if we were just so focused on the scale and we were getting all that positive feedback, and then we just change things to chase the number, that would make no sense. So don't get locked into numbers and timelines. Don't set, I have to achieve this goal in 8 weeks. Leave it open-ended, right? Unless you're somebody who has to, make weight for an athletic event on a specific date, there's no reason to set a timeline for it. Now, maybe you've got a specific date, a wedding, a vacation, or something like that, and that kind of sets a timeline. Well, in that case, still, don't put a number on the amount of weight you want to lose and the amount of weight you want to gain. Set a great process in place and say, hey, I want to lose a bunch of body fat over the course of this time, and really nail the plan. Okay, so that's my big first piece of advice. Set a short-term goal, set a secondary goal, and within those goals, keep them process and method oriented, not focused on the scale and not locked within some arbitrary timeline. Now, my next goal, this is a big one. If you could ask me, say, hey, one piece of advice to give to the general population to instantly improve everyone's body composition, performance, health metrics, all of those things, I hate to say it, it would be eliminating alcohol. And listen, guys, I'm not going to preach to you. This is not coming from some moral standpoint. We all have our vices. I have my vices. Okay. I've been a guy who has used marijuana. It helps me sleep. If I'm going to, try to get a little tipsy at a social event, that's going to be my vice of choice. I've got a Zyn in right now. I'm a caffeine junkie. So I'm not coming from you on some moral pedestal. But from a physiological standpoint, for people with fitness oriented goals, I am here to tell you, unfortunately, alcohol is a big roadblock. Definitionally speaking, alcohol is a poison. It is a toxin to our body. Now, the dose makes the poison, of course. Can you still make progress with some alcohol in your life? Yes, you can. Is having a couple beers on the weekend going to derail everything? No, not necessarily. However, the more prevalent alcohol is in your life, the more prevalent the negative effects are going to be on your fitness. And alcohol is going to have a negative effect on virtually every aspect of fitness. It's going to be catabolic, meaning anti-muscle gain. It's going to be anti-fat loss. It's going to hinder recovery. It is going to hinder performance. It's going to dehydrate you. It's going to sabotage sleep quality. It's going to negatively impact gut health. Of all the vices out there, short of, hard drug use, alcohol is a bad one. And, unfortunately, it is very prevalent in our culture. And I get that. I know that it is tied into social events, family gatherings, business events. And for some people, telling them to wholesale eliminate alcohol is not realistic. And I understand that. But what I would encourage you and challenge you on is if you are serious about a fitness related goal, if you are putting in the effort to dial in nutrition and training and sleep and all these other variables, if you're sitting here listening to this video, well, if you're unwilling to at least reduce your alcohol intake, you may need to reevaluate where your priorities really are, or you may need to reevaluate your relationship with alcohol. Now it's always weird people's relationship with alcohol. Like if you're the guy not drinking at a social event, which that's always me, people get weird about it. It's like they see you not drinking. They want to hand you that drink. Come on, man, just drink. It's like they're projecting this weird insecurity. And you can be above that. And again, I mean, this is not a moral thing, but this is if you have a fitness related goal, man, it is an absolute baller move to eliminate or at least really mitigate alcohol intake. So anyway, let's get off that. Going to the next point, this is going to be more nutrition strategy related, is I encourage you to establish some consistency with the number of meals you're eating daily and when you're eating them. Most people have no consistency here. Some days they're eating like 2 meals a day. Some days they're eating 4 meals a day. Some meals, they look at the clock, it's 2 p.m. They haven't even eaten yet. Then the weekend rolls around, then they're binging their face off. And it's just peaks and valleys and peaks and valleys. Some days they're eating tons. Some days they're eating hardly anything at all. And there's just no auto regulation here. It's all over the place. We have no idea what our intake is. Whereas if we establish just a set number of meals per day, call it 3, call it 4. We eat them roughly around the same time. This is really going to auto regulate your intake of food, your caloric intake, without even having to track. Just think if you ate 4 meals every day, you eat meal 1 around 8 a.m., meal 2 around noon, meal 3 around 4, meal 4 around 7:30. If you just did that and you kind of tracked your calories, which I'm not saying you even have to, but if you did track your calories, you would look at it, you'd realize you're consuming pretty dang close to the same amount of calories every day, right? And this establishes just some consistency with your intake. And now this gives you a good framework and understanding of how to adjust things to lose fat or to gain muscle. Okay, I've got a rough baseline knowledge of what I'm eating because I'm eating the same amount of meals daily around the same time. I've got a pretty good picture of what my intake is. Oh, I want to lose weight? Well, let's subtract some food from that. Oh, I want to gain weight? Let's add some food from that. So this is just an easy strategy to kind of quantify your intake and then give you a baseline to adjust without having to track everything meticulously. So that's a big one. Just establish some consistency and carry that through the weekend. Don't just do it Monday through Friday. Make it every day. Same thing with like sleep. Try to go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time. It just sets your body in a great rhythm. It regulates your circadian rhythm, your biorhythm. Same thing with food. Okay. Now, once you've established that consistency, my next tip is going to be increasing your protein intake. And we can simply do this by just building each of those meals around a protein source. If we build each of our meals around a protein source, inevitably our protein intake is just automatically going to go up. For a general population, the average person, by just doing this, that protein kind of just naturally goes up. Well, now we're building more muscle. Now we're more satiated. Protein is more filling. It's going to auto-regulate your intake. You're going to be more less hungry. You're going to eat less. Protein has what we call a high thermic effect of food, meaning your body literally has to burn a lot of calories just processing, digesting, and utilizing protein. So that protein intake goes up because we're building each of our meals around a protein source. Now we're building more muscle. Now our body's burning more calories, processing more protein. Now we're more full and satiated. So we're eating less of the other stuff. And we haven't even worried about tracking anything. Now, when it comes to building our meal around a protein source, I would opt for a low fat, lean source of protein. Things like chicken breast, whitefish, shrimp, wild caught salmon, lean pork loin, non fat Greek yogurt, whey isolate, things like this 96.4 and 93.7 ground beef, sirloin steak, flank steak, filet, venison. These are all great options. So you build each of your meals around a just substantial source of that protein. Automatically, protein intake goes up. You're more full. We're building more muscle. We're headed in a good direction. Now, my next piece of advice for the choosing your other foods, to quote my mentor, Justin Harris, one of my mentors, he coined the term kill it, pick it, grow it foods. Meaning when it comes to food selection, if you can hunt it, kill it, fish it, you can grow it in the ground, you can pick it out of a tree, it's probably a safe bet to include in your diet. Why? Because these are going to be single ingredient, non-processed whole foods. You look at the list of kill it, pick it, grow it foods for carbs: white rice, potatoes, fruit, berries, black beans, things like that. You look at the kill it, pick it, grow it list for fats: avocados, macadamia nuts, pistachios, avocado, guacamole. Avocado kills multiple birds with one stone. High in potassium, high in fiber, super healthy fat source. So I'm not saying you have to exclusively stay on the kill it, pick it, grow it diet list. I'll often include things like sourdough bread or a whole wheat pasta, things like that in diet plans. But if you just build the majority of your food selections around kill it, pick it, grow it foods, you're going to be in a great spot. It's very hard to overeat these foods into a surplus of calories. If you build out a plate of potatoes and rice and chicken breast and berries and avocado, very hard to overeat, and it's going to be very filling. You don't see a whole lot of people getting fat off of, lean beef, berries, potatoes, and almonds, right? So when in doubt, kill it, pick it, grow it foods. You build the majority of your food selections around those categories. You are going to be set up for success. Now, my final tip, and I'll go more into detail on this in a future video because this is one that does stir up controversy, and it shouldn't, is I am in favor of a higher carb, low fat approach. Now, I'm not going to go into super detail here. That'll be for another video, but I'll give you the cliff notes. With dietary fat, it's in the name. Fats stand the highest chance to be stored as, wait for it, body fat, whereas carbs, physiologically speaking, have a much harder chance of being stored as body fat. Our body preferentially will use it as fuel as long as we are pairing it with exercise. So our body wants to use carbs as a primary fuel source. It'll store carbs as muscle glycogen, which is stored potential energy. On a caloric level, okay, carbs are going to be way less calorie dense than fats. And 1 gram of carbohydrate, 4 calories. 1 gram of fat, 9 calories. So imagine building out a plate of carbs. Let's say we just load up a big plate of white rice. Well, this might just be 400 calories, 100 grams of carbs. It takes up a huge plate, 400 calories. Whereas the equivalent of 400 calories in fat. Hell, we can do that with a big dollop of peanut butter and a slice of cheese, and it takes 3 bites worth. So when you're building a diet around higher carbs, kill it, pick it, grow it carbs, especially, very hard to overeat, much better chance of not being stored as body fat, much higher chances being used as a fuel source. And because we're limiting the fats, okay, we're not eating the macronutrient that stands a very high chance of being stored as body fat. We're building our diet more around carbs. Now we've got more energy for training. Now we're getting better training sessions. Better training sessions means more muscle built, more calories burned. Our metabolism is going up. It's harder to overeat. It's easier on digestion. A lot of good reasons to build a diet around proteins and carbs as opposed to protein and a ton of fat, or worst of all, a ton of protein, carbs, and fats, where we just get this huge trifecta of lots of calories in way too big of a surplus. So, not to demonize fats, again, I'll go more in depth in this in a future video, but when you're building out your meals, protein first, kill it, pick it, grow it, foods around it. Let's steer it more in the direction of carbs and less in the direction of fats. Let's establish that meal frequency and consistency across the day, 7 days a week, not just Monday through Friday. Let's eliminate or at least minimize the alcohol intake. And let's go into this with a goal that is process oriented and not focused on a number on the scale or an arbitrary timeline. You implement these things, we haven't even tracked a macro or a calorie, and you are going to be set up for success. Now, guys, if you have questions, drop them in the comments. Stay tuned for upcoming videos where I'll go more in depth onto some of the specifics, different specific goals. If you scroll back through my channel, you can probably find some content I've already put out addressing some of these things. And again, you can check out my ebook where I go more into this. And if you want to work with me for one-on-one coaching, go to my website. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. Shoot me an email. I work with all sorts of different people of all walks of life. I'm passionate about what I do. And guys, I cannot thank you enough for the support that you've given me here on this YouTube channel. Just the subscribers and the engagement, people tuning in, the positivity. It just gives me motivation to put out better and better and more frequent content. And my goal is not, never has been, and never will be to stir up controversy, to put out clickbait, to just put out stuff that's going to generate views. I just want to be a good voice of reason and put out quality, actionable, and truthful information that's beneficial to all. So, guys, thank you for the continued support. If you find value in the content, please hit the subscribe button. It helps me with the channel. It helps me in a number of ways. If you want to see more of me, go to my website, hammerchiselperformance.com. You can check out my Instagram. Stay tuned for episodes of the Hammer and Chisel Performance podcast dropping on YouTube and Spotify every Tuesday. And guys, we'll catch you in the next video.